Hi Stampers, this is Linda from Snowberry Stampers, and today I wanted to show you the faux linen technique in creating this card. And the stamp sets that I'm using the tree from the Timeless Tropical. I'm using some of the shells and the speckles from Friends Are Like Seashells and a couple of the greetings. And for the tag itself, I'm using the largest squared off tag here from Tailor Made Tags. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is use a piece of tissue paper. And this is just gift wrap tissue paper, or it comes in the when you've got some specialty designer series paper, you might get a piece of tissue in between. So what we're going to do first is create a background. And I'm using our new blending brushes, and I'm taking crumb cake. And this piece is just, as you can see, it's not a perfect size. It doesn't need to be. And I'm creating a piece of scrap. I'm just creating the sand. All right. And I'm using Balmy Blue for the sky. And it's kind of hard to see on camera, but once I pick it up, and you'll be able to see a little bit better. And it doesn't matter if you stamp off with the brush or go directly to the tissue. It gives it a little bit of added dimension when you go on there straight. Okay, so that's good. All right. And while I've got the stamp pad open, the crumb cake, let's go ahead and just stamp on this designer series paper. This is from the Sand and Sea designer series paper, and this piece is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8, and this is one of my layers. So I'm going to use crumb cake, and I'm stamping off and stamping direct. It really doesn't matter. I guess it depends upon which edge of the DSP you're using. Some areas of this design are a little darker than others. Okay, and let's give it some seashells. And a sand dollar. Oops, didn't come out too good, but that's okay, because part of it's going to be covered over. And we've got some of the grasses. Really should be using this mat that I have next to me. It would give me some better. All right, and let's use that sand dollar again. I'm going to stamp it off. I just want to put the so that when I lay the tag down, I will have some of the shells sticking out. All right. Okay, that's good. And while we have this out, let me put this one away. Oh, no, we're gonna need that one again. All right. The inside of the card, I'm gonna go ahead and also stamp some of the speckles. There we go. And let's give it a star. All right. All right, so that's it for the crumb cake ink. let's go back to doing the tag. Okay, so we have this piece of tissue and it's now dried. You do want to give it a chance to dry before you go on to the next step. And what we're going to do is take the tree and we're going to stamp the top of the tree with Pear Pizzazz. And then I'm going to use a dauber with Old Olive just to give it a little bit of definition. So a little bit of definition on the palm fronds. Right. And then to color the trunk, I'm going to use my Early Espresso Stampin' Right marker, and you can go over whatever green you have on there because it's a darker color, it's fine. Okay, now we're going to huff on this, and I'm going to stamp it right on the tissue. I'm just going to hold it for a second. All right, and there you go. Now I want to give this another second to dry. So while it's drying, we're going to prep our base for that tag. And I'm using a piece of basic white, the thick paper. And this is just 3x4. Just doesn't matter because as long as the tag fits on here, we're good. All right. And I've taken a piece of our adhesive sheet and I've made it just a little smaller than this white. And I'm going to adhere that to the front of this white. Now you could use glue. Then the tissue paper will take a little bit longer to dry if you're doing it with wet glue. So we're going to use the adhesive sheet. So now that this is dry, we're going to crumple this up. And we're going to be a little gentle. We don't want it to rip. And then we're going to pull it apart. Very carefully. And we don't want to flatten out all the creases. That gives it the linen look. Okay. So now I'm going to peel the backing off of this piece here. And try not to get your fingers in it. And we're going to put the tree right on the sticky. And I'm not stretching it, I'm just pushing it down gently. Some of these creases will be smoothed out when you run it through the Big Shot if you decide to do that. So for the tag, I do have to run it through the Big Shot. So now I'm going to decide which way I want the tag. And let me just go off camera and run this through the Big Shot. Okay, and there we go. All right, that came out really pretty. All right, now I'm going to take a piece of linen thread, and just long enough so that I can fold it in half and tie a bow through the little keyhole here. Okay. Never easy on camera. Okay. All right, so there we go with that. Make a little bow. And on this one, I'm going to leave the legs a little bit longer on the bow. And snip those ends off. All right, so our tag piece is done. All right, so now for the card itself, I've got a Whisper White thick, not Whisper White, I'm sorry, Basic White thick. And it's 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And remember, we did a little stamping here with the crumb cake. I've got a strip of the sand looking DSP, and I'm just going to run that along the side here with using my green glue. And then just scissors. Okay, we'll just trim that off. And there's a little piece hanging here. All right. Now the front of the card, I'm going to mount the DSP onto a piece of crumb cake, and the crumb cake is 4 by 5 1/4. So it just gives a little bit of a border so it pops off. And green glue gives you a little bit of wiggle time. Maggie. Maggie. Okay, sorry about that, guys. All right, now we're going to mount that. So here's Maggie. The only way I get her to stop barking at the dogs walking by is by holding her. So I'm stamping and holding Maggie. All right. And we put this here, centered. Okay. And we're going to, before we put the tag on, in the new stamp sets, in the new photopolymer stamp sets, you always seem to get an extra piece of window sheet. So what I've been using this for is kind of like a Stampin' that we used to have. So a placement tool. So I want to stamp Love You to the Beach and Back. I'm just going to stamp that on my window sheet. And this way I can put the tag down and then decide where I want to put the greeting. And I'm going to put that up here. And I'm using Early Espresso. Okay. And then the tag is going to get mounted on dimensionals. And there you go. Pretty faux linen technique. Great to use with those scraps of tissue paper. And I hope you enjoyed this card. And I hope to see you again soon. I'm going to give you a quick glimpse of Maggie here, sitting on my lap. Maggie, say hi. Say hi, Mags. All right. You guys have a good day. Happy stamping, and I hope to see you soon.